Hello, and welcome back to the show. Well, there's no easy way to put this. Our worst fears have been realized. As everyone warned would happen, Russia has launched a full scale military invasion of Ukraine, triggering a brutal armed conflict in Eastern Europe on a scale never seen since World War II. The non interventionists and isolationists who constantly whined that we were fear mongering, that we were pushing for war, or that our worries about Russian aggression were just the product of imperialist propaganda have, yet again, shown their total ineptitude and lack of competence on the issue of foreign policy in general and Russian aggression in particular. As I speak, Ukraine is in the fight for its life. Thousands of people, many of them civilians, have already been killed. Russian artillery and aircraft are ruthlessly bombarding Ukrainian cities and shelling civilian targets, and over 1.5 million people have fled their war-torn nation in Europe's largest domestic refugee crisis since the Second World War. It has been an absolute catastrophe, a catastrophe that all of us, especially us liberal hawks, saw coming from a mile away. And, of course, in the midst of this utter humanitarian disaster, there has predictably been a rise in absolutely mind-numbingly stupid takes coming from the very same conspiratorial, populist, isolationist pundits from both sides of the political spectrum. And this take in particular really goes to show just how much mental gymnastics the Western non-interventionist faction of politics is willing to undergo to absolve Russia of any blame and somehow pin this disaster on the US and NATO. This retarded human waffle iron is named Stu Peters. If you don't know who he is, you're a lot luckier than I am. Stu Peters is a far-right talk show host and failed rapper who makes a living shitting out the most outlandish conspiracy theories about COVID-19 that I've ever heard in my entire life. Anyway, Stu decided to grace us with this absolute brain sodomy of a take on the Russia-Ukraine crisis that was so stupid and so mind-numbingly dreadful I just had to make a video on it. Let's take a look.
They can make Putin this big public enemy. And while they make him the scapegoat, they think that they can distract the American people from our real enemy, them. Putin didn't force this bioweapon shot on your kids. They didn't coerce you into taking this injection under the threat of losing your job and forcing you into the unemployment line. Putin didn't put critical race theory in our schools. Vladimir Putin didn't tell us that Jussie Smollett was a victim and that George Floyd was a saint. He didn't let rioters run wild in 100 different cities, causing $12 billion in damage over a 3-month period last summer. Well, Antifa and BLM criminals, terrorists, looted and burned down churches and lit fire to occupied dwellings and police precincts and raped people and killed them and targeted cops for assassination. All in the name, by the way, of that career criminal home invading thug who died of a fentanyl overdose on the streets of Minneapolis. Vladimir Putin didn't let sicko doctors castrate your kids. The same people who brought you Orange Man bad, vaccine good, and riots good now want you to just blindly believe Putin bad. They want to fight a war for democracy in Ukraine to make you forget that they killed democracy right here in the United States. Don't let them.
That was an avalanche of nonsense. I'm not even kidding. That was an absolute cavalcade of inarticulate bullshit. I don't even know where to begin. I mean, let's go over what he brought up. Okay, so he mentioned Jussie Smollett, George Floyd, BLM, Antifa, bioweapon shot. Oh dear. Riots, critical race theory, castrating babies. I don't know what the fuck that's about. Who the fuck castrates babies? I don't even know what he's trying to refer to there. Yeah, and this is only a short clip. The full show is absolutely insane. Even more insane than this clip. You know, it goes on about white genocide and globalists and all that. You know, just typical right-wing tradcon, buzzwords. But the part I want to focus on is where he says that the elites are creating this war to distract us. I love that about the populists and conspiracy theorists. They're always so vague. when they're talking about the enemy. Oh, the elites. These people live in a goddamn Tom Clancy novel. Oh, it's the elites, versus the people. We're like the revolution. We're the resistance against the establishment. Ugh, it's a headache. It's like some 14-year-old saw The Matrix while high and drunk and tried to create a political allegory for it. I mean, gee, yikes. Populism is a mental disorder. I've said that before, and I'll say it again. Populism is a mental disorder, especially when it comes from an absolute walking turd like this. But yeah, anyway, he says the war was created to distract us from something. He doesn't explain really what that is. But yeah, basically he's saying Russia didn't force this war. Russia isn't to blame here. It's the elites who created this war to distract us. Distract us from what, Stu? What? What are they distracting us from? The vaccines? Well, that doesn't make sense because we've been vaccinated for over a year now. It seems to me that if they want to do a distraction from the vaccines, they would have done this a year ago. And if this is a distraction, it's a piss poor one because the groundwork for this was laid all the way back in April of last year when Russia first started building up troops on the Ukrainian border. That doesn't sound like a very good distraction, not a very well planned one anyway. So, and it's not like the anti-vaxxers have suddenly turned their attentions elsewhere. The anti-vax crowd isn't being distracted by this conflict. So, yeah, do I even have to explain why this talking point is so stupid? It is blatantly obvious to anyone who has been observing the situation in Eastern Europe that Russia, and only Russia, is to blame for what's happening in Ukraine today. Over the past 8 years, Putin has made it abundantly clear that he has absolutely zero respect for Ukrainian sovereignty and that he will reconstitute the Soviet Union even if that means invading another country with force and killing thousands of innocent people. He's doing that right now as we speak. So you can't spin this you can't spin this in any other way. There is no other way to spin this. It is Russia's fault that Ukraine is at war right now. And it's only Russia's fault. It's not NATO, not the United States, not imperialism, not colonialism, not capitalism. It's Russian aggression, Russian imperialism, and Putin's desire to reconstitute the Soviet Empire. That is it. So, yeah, I'm sure the vast majority of you watching this video realize that. But I just want to remind you of the kinds of insidious propaganda that we're up against. Because, unfortunately, people like Stu Peters are not all that uncommon. We have people like Jimmy Dore, Alex Jones, Kyle Kulinski, Aaron Mate, Max Blumenthal, Abby Martin, Ben Norton, countless other isolationist, conspiracy theorists and Western non-interventionists who spread this kind of ridiculous propaganda trying to absolve Russia of any blame and deny the occurrence of their war crimes. So, yeah, make of that clip what you will. I think it has killed a part of my brain that I will never get back. Well, that's all for today. I'm going to try to reconstitute some of my brain cells. And until next time, peace out.